Hey guys, so I'm going to show you how to get rid of the square root in the bottom of your fraction. So sometimes you're going to get a final answer that's a fraction, and then there's a square root in the bottom. And a lot of the instructors that you get for math are not going to be cool with that. You know, they're going to ask you to remove that square root. And you might not remember how to do it, or you might not know how to do it. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It's super, super easy, it's super quick, and it's called rationalizing the denominator, right? So what you're going to first do is you're going to go ahead and rewrite the fraction that has that square root in the bottom, right? So I rewrote it, and then you're going to put a multiplication symbol next to it. Now, whatever that they gave you in the bottom of that fraction, that square root, you're going to repeat. You're going to put it right there because we're building a second fraction. We're building a second one. And with the rules of this, anything you do in the bottom, you've got to do at the top. So whatever you write in the bottom, you got to throw up at the top. So that's what this is going to look like. You basically have four numbers now. You got that number 1, and then you have 3 of these square roots of 2. Okay? So it looks a little bit odd, but you're doing it perfectly and correctly. So here's what's up. When you multiply, because we're multiplying, we drew that little multiplication symbol right here in the center. When we multiply 2 square roots that are exactly the same, what happens is you get to take off its hat, its square root, and it becomes a 2, just a basic standard 2. If I had like the number 7 in the bottom and then we had 2 number 7s of square roots, just becomes a 7. So that's what makes it so super easy. So we multiply the square root of 2 by square root of 2, and all we did is rip off the hat, and now it's just a naked number 2. Okay, so what about the top part? What about the numerator? What do I do there? Well, we're multiplying. You just multiply across. The 1 times square root of 2 is just the square root of 2. And this is the final answer. It's pretty simple. Let's do some more problems, because every once in a while you're going to run into different stuff. So let's go ahead and try doing a few more before we run into different obstacles. Okay, so I have 2 over square root of 3. Let's go ahead and rewrite it, right, as per the rules. Multiplication symbol, and then whatever square root I have in the bottom, I'm going to repeat because I'm building a second fraction. And whatever I do downstairs, I got to throw upstairs. So I basically end up with 4 little numbers now. Then my next step is every time I multiply, anytime I multiply the exact same square root numbers with each other, I take off the hat, and then I just end up with a 3. Great. And what about the top? I have a 2, just a normal 2, and then I have a square root 3. So what do? Well, I multiply them together. So I get 2 times square root of 3. Perfect. This is the final answer. Okay, so what about this one right here? 15 square root of 5. What do I do? Okay, so I basically rewrite it. The next step, we do the little multiplication symbol. That's important because you have to remember how we're applying this stuff. If you put a plus sign, if you skip it and don't do anything, you actually might forget that I'm supposed to multiply all these together and all the special little rules you might forget. So make sure you put that little dot there. It seems like it's no big deal, but it is. So now we build our second fraction. How do we get that second fraction? Anything the square root tells you, you're going to repeat. And anytime you build this fraction, whatever you do at the bottom, you got to do at the top. So now I have my 4 numbers, right? So at the very bottom, every time I have 2 exact same square roots being multiplied together, I rip off the hat and I just have a 5. What about the top? Well, I have 15 times square root of 5, so I have 15 times square root of 5. Now, this kind of looks like, oh, maybe this is the final answer. But, if you look closely, I can actually simplify further. So this could technically be the right answer, but there is an expectation for you to simplify when there is an opportunity to simplify. So let's see, how many times does 5 go into 15? Well, it goes in 3 times. And then we get rid of this 5 and make it into a 1. So what do I have left? I have 3 square root of 5. That was what was in the top, the numerator. The denominator, you don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to write anything down because it's a 1. Anytime you have a 1 in the bottom of the fraction, you don't have to turn it into a fraction anymore. So it's just the top number, and this is the final answer. Let's try a couple more. I have 49 over square root of 7. So what's my first step? I rewrite it. Right? The second step, I do a little multiplication symbol because I got to know what I'm about to get into, right? I can't just write the numbers down. So what do I do next? Okay, whatever the square root tells me, I'm going to repeat. So I'm going to put that 7 downstairs, and I'm going to put that 7 upstairs because I'm building a new fraction. I have 4 numbers now, so everything's perfect so far. I start at the bottom. If I am multiplying 2 square roots that are exactly the same, I rip off the hat and I just end up with the number by itself. At the top, I multiply the numerator together, or the top part, right? 49 times square root of 7. So this could be the final answer, but you have to remember that there's always an opportunity to simplify when you have like whole numbers. Like when you got this 7 in the bottom and this 49 at the top. Maybe we can make it smaller. And this takes a little bit of time. Sometimes you don't instinctually know. Sometimes you got to like kind of maybe do some math. You got to start dividing and stuff like that. You might have to do something off in the corner. It takes a minute. So if you don't know immediately, it's okay. It takes a while. So with the number 7 and 49, we know, right? At some point, we know that 7 goes into 49 7 times. And then this 7 becomes a 1. And it's okay if you don't know that. Yeah, at some point, it's going to become a little bit easier for you to remember. So we get 7 times square root of 7, right? So this is the correct and final answer. Okay, so what if I run into a fraction like I have over here on this next example, where I have a whole number and I have a square root? Because basically what I was doing with all the other stuff in the past is anything I saw on the bottom, I just repeated it and then I threw it up at the top and I was cool. I was good to go. Okay, so what do I do here? Do I just do the same thing? Well, sometimes. Not quite. Let's go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and show you something, and we're going to notice something that maybe we could do differently. So let's go ahead and do 1 over square root of 16. I'm going to leave the 3 out because it's not a square root. I don't need it, right? So if I had like a bunch of alphabets in front of that 3 or behind that 3, it doesn't matter. I just need the square root because my goal is to get rid of the square root. So I'm just messing with the square root. And I'm going to show you something with this particular problem, right? So here we are. This is the setup that we've been doing, right? Okay, so let's see what happens. I'm getting rid of the square roots in the bottom, right? So I have 16 with 1 times square root of 16. So we just do 16, but let's not forget that 3. Let's not forget that 3 we had, right? Because we had a 3 here. Okay, so let's see. What are we getting here? This is a very interesting problem. So let's see. I have a 16 times 3, which gives me 48 over square root of 16. So here's the thing with this. This is not correct. I know we went through all the steps, but it's not correct. This is incorrect. Here's why it's incorrect. Now, listen, we followed all the steps correctly, okay? If we were like AI or something doing this, then yeah, we're following all the steps and the patterns correctly. But here's the thing. Here's the thing you got to really take a look at. This is what I mean earlier when I said really pay attention to like simplification. Right here, this square root of 16, I can actually reduce that, right? So it becomes, let me get a different pen so we can see what happens. This becomes 1 over 3 times 4. The square root of 16 is 4, right? So This actually is 1 over 12 because I multiplied the bottom part together and I got a 12, and the 1 is just a 1. It's actually this. This is the final answer. It's not this guy. So this is why you have to look at things very, very carefully, because even though you followed all the steps correctly, the answer was not correct because we forgot to simplify. Sometimes you're going to have an opportunity where you could simplify at the very jump, at the very start. Like this problem right here. If I had a square root up here, then through time, through like studying and doing a bunch of homework, I'll know that this numerator becomes a 7. And I can just skip all of this math and just say my final answer is 7 over square root of 7. And then I can go ahead and carry on with the steps that we've been doing this whole time. So this is why we have these different examples. I want to show you that sometimes, it gets tricky, essentially. So here's a few more problems. All right, I have 1 over square root of 9, which I rewrote. I did a multiplication symbol. And then whatever the square root tells me in the bottom, I'm going to repeat. Whatever I have downstairs, I'm going to throw upstairs in my second fraction I'm building. Now I have 4 numbers, so it looks like I'm doing everything correct. It looks right visually. What do I do here? I have 2 numbers that are exactly the same, that are square root, that I am multiplying. So what do I do here? Let's see. Well, at the top, it's 9 because of 1 times 9, and then at the bottom, it's 9. What do you think? Is that correct? So here's the thing. I know we did all the math just now, but it's totally not correct. This is also wrong. This is super totally wrong. Here's why. Here's why. Here we go again. Square root of 9 is 3. We should have looked carefully and we should have simplified from the beginning. We totally just went into like autopilot and just started doing like the patterns that we were learning. The answer to this is not square root of 9 over 9. The square root of 9 is 3. So the answer is actually 1 over 3. We didn't have to do any math. This is the final answer. Okay, I have one more problem I want to do with you. I have 6 over 2 times square root of 7. What do? We're going to repeat exactly what we have. And I'm noticing there's nothing to do here significant. Let's see. Do I maybe start putting a 7 at the top and the bottom? Or is there something maybe I can simplify? Let me take a look and see. Well, it looks like 2 and 6, they look like they're buddies. They look like they can help simplify, right? So how many times does 2 go into 6? Well, it goes in 3 times, right? If we do 2, 2, 2, 2 plus 2 plus 2, it gives me 6. That's 1, 2, 3. So it goes in 3 times. So I'm going to change this to 3. I'm going to change this to 1. What do I have? I have 3 over square root of 7 because I had to simplify. Okay, well, I still have that 7 in the bottom, so now what do? I can't simplify anything else. I'm not seeing anything else. At least I don't think I'm seeing anything else, right? If I was like a student. Let's see. Well, I guess we just move on to the next step because I really, truly don't see what else I could do. So let's just go ahead and put a little multiplication symbol. And then we put a 7 at the bottom. Whatever we do at the bottom, we gotta do at the top. I have 4 numbers now. Anytime I'm multiplying the exact same square root number, I basically rip off the hat and I got a 7 here. I got a 3 here. I got a square root of 7 at the top because I multiplied the numerator or the top part of the fraction. And let's see, does 3 go into 7 evenly? No, it goes in twice and I got a little bit of extra left over, so I can't keep reducing. So I'm saying this is the final answer. So when you rationalize the denominator or basically get rid of the square root from the bottom, sometimes it gets a little bit tricky because we got to consider simplification. We have to consider that. So basically what you do is you take a look and see, can I simplify it at some point in the beginning or in the end? Then please, 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 please go ahead and do so. But overall, what you're going to do is you're going to take whatever the square root is in the bottom, and you're going to basically make a second fraction where you do it at the top and the bottom, and then you just simply multiply across. Okay, I hope this helped. Okay, guys, take care. Bye.